on. Reynor opening Protoss, like I say, against Dark in the start of this best of 5. In the top right-hand side, we're going to start with the blue Zerg that is playing the race we expect him to. This is Dark from Dragon Kaisi Gaming. Bottom left, our red Protoss from Basilisk is going to be Reynor. And he's already sending a probe on the map. One probe to build a pile. That's a super early probe denial looking to come through here. So, looking to deny the hatchery. Absolutely guaranteed. Like I say, it's been a hot second since I've seen Reynor kind of off-race the Protoss. So, excited to see what he's got planned for the matchup at the moment. Excited to see what he's thinking and feeling. Like I say, the tournament rules do state that you are allowed to switch your race during the series as well. So, Reynor can play ZVZ and other maps of this if he doesn't like kind of commit into the ZVP. As Dark does not get his initial hatchery down on the natural because the probe is there, so that is going to be the third hatchery taken instead. And now our probe moves up into the main base to be annoying on the mineral patches as Reynor. Again, just kind of surprising. I wonder what it is that triggers him to be like, you know what, today's the day we bring the off-race back. And everyone's like, wow. Well, half the people are like, he's so BM switching races. Dark's literally sat there like, I mean, surely his Protoss isn't as good as his Zerg, right? Like, if I lose to his Protoss, that's on me. I throw a bit of Dark. I don't know if Dark does preparation. You know, to me, he's never struck me as a player that really prepares heavily, especially for even a larger event on the online kind of scene. So, yeah, I think if Dark did any preparation, maybe gets thrown off a little bit. I think the last time I actually heard of Reynor off-race, and did he not off-race versus Dark in, I don't know what tournament that was. I feel like he played some off-race versus Dark in maybe like a pig tournament or something. It was a very close series. I can't remember. I don't know if he like went down 0-3 with Protoss and then he won 4-3 with Zerg or something. I can't remember what event that was, but I feel like that was an event that happened maybe a couple months ago. Can't quite recall. Maybe more than a couple months ago now. It was the talk of the town for the couple of days after it happened. Oh, Reynor played Protoss, but then he had to switch to Zerg, and he threw the series. Did he? He might have lost because he might have actually lost, and then people were like, "Wow, he is trolling." All of this nonsense. As you see, our Stargate coming up. So Reynor going to open in a very standard way in the PvZ with the Stargate. Just going to see those couple of lings going after that probe initially. Reynor trying to scout back in with the probe. Not going to find too much with it. As you see, our link speed still about halfway through for the moment, so just bringing that up. Hope gate's continuing, and our Adept is going to move forward as well. So the Adept is starting to get out onto the map to try and take position of this probe, which is going to be allowing you to scout and to get some information in general. The Adept does commit to a scout over here, and its shade moves straight through. Just for the moment, Adept is going to be in this mineral line and starting to get a couple shots off. Taking a few hits, but nothing too major, I would say. It's going to be able to kind of scarp her out of there and not sit in, like I say, too much trouble, all said and done. You have the Oracle is on the way out from Reynor, so again, very much so just the plain old standard of PvZ. There's nothing unorthodox about what he sets up for initially. There's a couple of probes and the Adept all coming out, and yeah, we'll see how many Oracles he wants to go up to. 3 Oracles has been absolutely the kind of go-to lately for players, as Reynor will start his second now. Was just caught in a supply block there for a couple of seconds. Things getting this around. The Adept will fall. A probe gets picked off on the bottom. Here comes the Oracle. In for 2. Just 2 workers. Oh, it takes a little bit of extra damage as well, so the Oracle definitely coming out of this a little bit worse for wear at the end, as we're just going to see now. A few Zerglings still camping out in the front. Oracle, Gateway, a couple additional probes all being brought in. The Oracle is going to have maybe the chance to activate for a couple of Zerglings here, mind you, and he will do exactly that. So a few more lings begin to drop. The Nexus comes down, very much so still as expected. The Evolution Chamber coming up from Dark as well. I don't know if Reynor's plan is to just continue into kind of a very kind of later game army, which can be, I feel like, quite successful oftentimes on Ancient, where you just play very slowly as the Protoss. You kind of just take your bases and you just sort of go from there. Melee upgrade will begin on the evolution chambers. Just going to get that started up. We have our forge and the nexus continuing through. There is the melee upgrade as well, so that evolution chamber being put to immediate use. And a couple of adepts are going to come shading by, and the lings are looking to try and jump on those adepts straight away. They will not quite make it there, though. A couple of stalkers continue to wander around. This one is going to go up. Things come about. Just going to get a little bit of a surround here. I was looking up this Dark Reynor history. It was in the Alpha X Gladiators Cup. I think. I'm trying to find it on Wikipedia. Yeah, the Alpha X Gladiators Cup. Reynor played 6 games as Protoss, and he went 3-3 with Dark. He played map 4 Zerg on Inside and Out and lost the ZVZ. That was August 20th, 2022, so it was about a year ago. Holy crap. It was over a year ago. Why do I remember that as being like 2 or 3 months ago? My goodness, the last year's just disappeared apparently. I remember this has been a bit more recently, but yeah, it was 4-3. Dark went 3-3 with his in PvZ, but then he won the 1 ZVZ map they played throughout that, I believe. Oracle's coming by. Gonna grab a couple more drones over there and just seeing our Blinken +1 coming through. Was that the last time I really saw Reynor playing Protoss off-race super seriously? I feel like it was close to then, perhaps. It's going to be seeing our +2 melee coming up, Roach Speed coming out. We do have our Oracles going to activate and it's going to cancel up a Spore. We get 1 drone. And again, Reynor's keeping pretty active with these Oracles throughout so far. Dark just moving into the +2 melee. The Roach Speed, obviously, as well. Going to be having ourselves the just general move towards all this tech coming in. There's a Stasis War to catch a few drones as well, so Reynor gets a little nab. Playing this Blink, but not super aggressive on the map Blink, because he just wants to kind of get these Blink Stalkers up, but instead is then going to go into the Storm, and the Storm is going to be the real focus of Reynor here over the next little while. That's going to be the one thing that really kind of keeps him up and running and operational in a lot of these upcoming fights, so expecting to see a little bit of something there as our Lings do come through. The couple of cannons will begin to go down. One cannon drop, the other cannon coming into fire. A few Lings going to get chased away. And the Stormman +2 continuing out. Our Stalker's going to chase forward. The Lings taking a lot of shots. And just going to be seeing the Lings back around into the center of the map for a couple more moments. Oracle is just going to drop a Stasis Ward down. Just going to catch a single drone. As you see Dark looking to make a play onto the 4th base. Ideally, you don't have to cancel this or anything as Reynor, he blinks across. There's the Oracles here as well, which he activates to help defend the position. And he will be able to chase those Zerglings away, as it is very Ling heavy. This is where the Storm is going to be absolutely huge. If you can get good Storms out against these Lings, you can absolutely melt them. As do we have any High Templars currently available? There are 4 on the map. They're not here right now, as the Lings do kind of run in. The Lings find a lot of the High Templar in the back. We actually lose 1. The other finally drops a Storm onto the Roaches, but maybe a second too late. And if these High Templar were a little bit further forward, they could have been able to just kind of storm all the Lings coming in. It would have been such a different fight, but they were a bit too far back to really get involved immediately. And Reynor taking some heavy losses against just kind of a Ling Roach flood onto his 4th base. He's going to lose the 4th as well. Dark doesn't need to stick around for any longer than that. As we blink forward, Dark says, actually, I can turn and fight these Stalkers if they're going to commit in like this. Oracle's activated, still trying to do something as our Stalkers have to blink back defensively one more time. A couple of cannons going through, a couple of Lings getting picked away at. It's going to be seeing our +3 melee upgrade and the Adrenal Glands all coming out as well. Now Lings and Roaches are going to start knocking through a set of rocks in the center here, so we break down this position, we open up this portion of the map, we can make our way down to the south. As we do see 16 additional Banelings all coming through. Again, the few Zealots are still wandering around themselves. The rock's still being worked away on. These few Stalkers are kind of out in the open. They need to be very careful, as they do kind of get caught a little bit. Just going to be seeing Dark has no real reason to kind of let up the pressure. Reynor is obviously struggling with the lack of a fourth base, and I mean, this is kind of go time for Reynor. He does drop a good initial storm. That's kind of what he needed last time, right? The storm as these units kind of ran into the fight, not storms on the, end of the fight. The Banelings don't really clash into anything too monumental, although the Roaches are able to get forward and knock down a couple of Archons. That alone is pretty substantial already. As Adept Glaives continues up as well. So continuing through the Glaives, the Shields coming up as well as another upgrade from Reynor, but I'm not sure that this is something that's really going to help him out in this case. Dark just got Adrenal Glands. He's on his way to +3 melee. His army is only really getting better. 12 ball Ravages obviously going to be pretty nice as well, as Reynor tries to grab one of those Ravages, but he will be unsuccessful in the process. It's going to be seeing our Lings, our Roaches, our Ravages continuing through, and it does look as though Dark is going to be able to have himself a game 1 victory here. That is just that previous fight towards the fourth base that went so wrong for Reynor. Otherwise, he was set up in a pretty okay position. And I actually genuinely think that if he had his High Templar further forward, he would have actually been okay on that fourth base as well. I was kind of skeptical about Dark diving in originally. But like I say, the way that it was set up, the position that was taken, and the High Templars just being so far back, not ready to storm, extremely costly. Now we're starting to lose a whole bunch of probes. A lot of work is going down. As you do have our Resonating Glaives about to finish up. But obviously I don't think there's any world in which a number of Adepts are going to be morphed in and saving the day here. So can't see that being any real additional aid. As our Lings and that +2 continue to build. +2 missiles from Dark, because he's now finished up all the melee upgrades. He's just going to start focusing on the missile upgrades instead. As our Oracle is going to activate, Roaches, Ravages continue to get chased away as well. As the Lings continue to go after a few more of these Zealots. Corrosive Battles continue to drop in. Stalkers are going to blink forward. Another Ravager still going down. Obviously, without a third base, Reynor is really holding on to scraps at the moment. There's a couple of cannons, and the Zealot's going to be there to defend against this little round of Zerglings from moving through. I actually think if Reynor had kept a base up during this, he might have been somewhat okay. Obviously, I mean, maybe Dark, if he keeps a base up during this, Dark doesn't continue to be as aggressive as he's being. Maybe in a big way, Dark is being as aggressive as he is, because he knows he's knocked a base down, and then it's going to be very difficult for Reynor to play any sort of recovery from that point. Lings coming through, the Zealots and the Stalkers continue to fight against those Lings. One more Lings just coming out, +2 missiles, and the Carapace. GG is going to be called, and Dark is going to grab a game number 1 against Reynor's Protoss. See if Reynor sticks to Protoss heading into game 2. Well, if you want. So my TLDR is, if you're upset about this, is to stop whining and to just sit back and enjoy the games, because you're literally the only person that's upset about it. More or less. Just because I can see people already complaining and stuff in the chat. Because, yeah. In the bottom right, our blue Zerg is going to be Dark. And sticking to Protoss in the top left, our red Protoss is Reynor. I just don't see how you can call it cocky. Like, if you feel like you can play Protoss at that level, you feel like that's not cockiness. That's just like believing in your ability to play Protoss. Like, if you get beat, you get beat. Reynor's not like losing this. He's like, God, I really had him there, Like, I should have had him. Like, if Dark beats his Protoss, he beats his Protoss. Like I say, it really is viewership outrage more than anything else, which is so stupid. Like, Reynor even said one of the reasons he didn't continue to play off-race is because people he kind of got sick of people complaining about it, and the community turned him off it, which is so sad, because it's such a cool thing to see someone playing an off-race at a super high level. That the fact people in chats are whining about it to the point where it's making the player feel mentally bad about it, kind of means that you should probably think twice about it. Because you are actually hurting the game of StarCraft by whining about something that's only good for the game and only good for viewership. And only good for, interest in tournaments. Like there's literally no downside to Reynor off-racing. He's going to get proxy hatched here, so Dark is going to make his life difficult. Of course, when you off-race, dealing with cheese and so on might be one of the more difficult things to really handle. Seeing if this is going to be something that gets going nicely, as Reynor is going to see the creep spread in a few moments' time, and he will then be aware of the approach Dark is taking in this game number 2. Two spine crawlers starting up. Like I say, Reynor is now aware. Chrono Boost to Stalker. I think a lot of the time here, the fast robo facility into Mortals is obviously very nice. It's typically a very good way to get set up. Hero played against a proxy like this from Dark the other day. Did he beat the proxy or did he lose to the proxy? I can't quite remember. I remember the Immortals kind of beating away at the spines and pushing back. I don't remember if he actually won against or not, though. I don't know why I can't remember that. Reynor gets a bunch of batteries up, so he's going to have a lot of sustain on the front door. As the first Stalker will start to shoot the first spine crawler here. There's a couple of Lings that are in the base, as the few Lings at the front are going to try and get through as well. That Stalker will be healed by the battery. Second Stalker about to pop. Important that it goes to the right side. Make sure that it's not going to be, you know, caught out of the base and unable to get back in. That would obviously be very disastrous at this point. You are playing with a little bit of fire in fairness, as Reynor here. Second gate about to finish. Obviously, a ways off seeing that Cybercore done. Without a Nexus, you're not going to have a super battery available. So I feel as though without a super battery available, you're going to have a really bad time. And it does feel as though these batteries are not really cutting it. A third Stalker shows up, and now the Lings are starting to come through. They're going to have Ling speed shortly, as we're going to lose the Warp Gate as well. And if we lose the Warp Gate, do we have much of a shot here to kind of stick it out and to keep this going? No, there's no way we save Warp Gate. 2 more Stalkers will be the last things we see from the Cybercore for a while. He's already rebuilding the Cybercore in the main base, and 2 more gateways. So defending the low ground for as long as he can, but now the Lings have speed. He has to recall back into his main. He's going to lose 1, 2 Stalkers immediately. That's obviously not a good sign, as now the next Stalker pops out. It's going to be in trouble. Baneling Nest coming up from Dark, because I think Dark is going to proxy hatch his way to a 2-0 victory. Now, as Reynor has not gotten this under control well enough at all. As that gateway will go down. And it's going to be seeing the pylon, the battery continue to drop. The couple Lings do squeeze into the main. And obviously with Baneling Nest coming up, it feels as though Reynor will not be able to do too much. He doesn't have Warp Gate. He's not going to be able to warp in defenses. This is just rough. There's going to be too many Lings. The battery was a moment too late there as well. He doesn't have a Nexus energy either, so he can't super battery in the main base. Currently has no fighting unit as the first Stalker starts up. And Dark's just going to back away, morph a bunch of Banes, and probably just go and bust this main base down and shut this down. Lings, Banes is going to come through. Just going to be seeing the Banelings want to go and, well, blow up all these probes. They are very much so stuck in the corner. Ah! Kaboom! Somehow that wasn't even as many probes as I thought. Some of them on the assimilators survived for a couple extra seconds. Dark takes the 2-0 lead in this EV. So we have with a 2-0 lead in the top left, our blue Zerg player. It is going to be Dark. In the bottom right, our red Zerg from Basilisk. It is Reynor. Gonna go for the extractor trick opening. Slight diversion to what Dark is doing with the more standard setup here. A couple drones coming through. Just gonna be seeing a couple more drones building up on the side of Dark. See where we take it as we do finally get into the ZV0. Maybe somewhat expectant of this series. After a couple of Protoss games have gone down. Extractor is going to cancel. Oh, our drone's going to get back into the mineral line. Now finally getting out of that 15 supply kind of error, as obviously this was just the extractor trick into the hatch pool. And then he's going to take gas a little bit later. I believe the logic is if you do it like this, if you don't go hatch gas pool, but hatch pool gas, this is a little bit better off. Your timings are a little bit better. I mean, you can see his pool is much faster, but obviously he's not going to have gas at all. So it's exactly what his plan comes down to be when that kind of continues in a little bit. Maybe seeing our hatch gas pool coming up. And again, a drone coming in on either side. Let's get this ready to start. Pretty sure you have to play the tourney with the race you pick. If that was the case, he literally wouldn't have been allowed to play Protoss for the first 2 maps. So here's my stance on it, guys. I actually don't think race switching within a series personally should be allowed, because it's very ingrained in StarCraft 2 that you veto maps. That you veto maps ahead of a series for the specific matchups, right? So I personally think that I always personally thought race switching within a series shouldn't be allowed. The counter argument to that is, well, if someone's good enough to like play off race at a high level, then they should be allowed to do that anyway, which is whatever. The official ruling, I think, eventually just came from ESL, who basically said you can switch race between maps in a tournament. So as long as that's the rule from ESL, that's going to be pretty much the rule in all other tournaments. They don't see it as an issue, so pretty much no other tournament is going to see it as an issue either, I always thought kind of switching race between series was fine, and announcing your race before the series begun and before vetoes begun, so players could veto effectively, but yeah, like I say, ESL have said it that you can switch race during a series, and if that's the case, then that is the case. So very much so comes down to that. What about if you go random? Well, playing random is different, because random randomly generates your race when you load into a game. So then you're not gaining any advantage by playing random as the maps come through, because you would have to randomly go, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to play a random and then I randomly get the race I want for each map, right? Is what my logic was. Like, random doesn't really have the same effect, because you don't have control over which race you play on which map. Yeah, no, I mean, like I say, it's very much so just like an opinion thing. In my opinion, I was never really a fan of switching between, mid-series. Most players don't seem to mind it. Tournaments have pretty much made a rule that you can, so I very much so changed my opinion to it being that it's kind of allowable, it's normal. It was just kind of an unorthodox thing to have happen, but now that the rules are kind of in place, it's like, okay, that the rules are set, we understand that it can be a thing. If you know that it can be a thing, you know it can be a thing, right? Like, all good. I remember Solar complaining at Valencia, I think it was, because Solar vetoed his maps to play ZVs. Vetoed his maps to play ZVZ, and he had 2 really bad ZVP maps in. And then Reynor was like, no, I'm playing Protoss. And Solar's like, that's that? And he's like, he's playing Protoss, is that allowed? He's like, the admin's like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, Solar's like, but I vetoed my maps for ZVZ, and the admin's like, well, that's not part of the rules. Like, he can play Protoss if he wants to. And so I was like, god damn it. Then Solar has to play the most, like, campy, turtley PvZ maps ever, and Reynor just sits there and doesn't die. So I was like, yeah, okay. Cool. Meter's coming up. +1 flyer attack coming in as we get set through. Early few minutes here. Obviously, mutas are going to come out here from Dark, so he's going to be playing pretty aggressive with those. Reynor looking as though he might just be happy to play a longer game. Roach is in the Infestation Pit. Infestation Pit suggests that you're going to be playing against these mutas with Infestors and Fungals. That doesn't really set you up to go for one big attack against them. That doesn't really set you up to just sort of like deal with them quickly and, off we go. This to me says we're going to play a slower game where we're going to fungal the mutas a couple of times. We're going to use them to ward the mutas off. And we're probably just going to slowly fight towards a 4th base. Mutas come through. Obviously, are going to be taking some shots. It's going to be seen. Our mutas continuing by, just going to be seeing them heading around. So far, the defense pretty good from Reynor. Like I said, this is going to be a slow crawl towards the 4th base for him. As our mutas are going to go after a couple of drones. The queens are going to be there. And the mutas coming out. +1 melee coming through. Our +1 fly attack is also coming out as that Baneling Nest about to finish up. So again, that Baneling Nest completed. And this kind of says to me that Dark wants to kind of play like, a lot of Banelings kind of bust through some Hydras, which are a response, but Banelings, when Infestors are out, are not as good because you can fungal the Banelings and stop them from reaching the Hydras, and then your Hydras are going to live, and then you don't really have a successful answer to the, to the Hydras as Dark. So I don't really love the route that Dark is taking here. I'm not 100% convinced about the Banes, but, you know, in my mind, I can see how Reynor deals with the Banelings with the setup that he currently has, essentially. As Amida is going to go grab the Overlord. That's going to be Overlord killed off over to the right-hand side. Once again, +2 missiles about to finish. The Hydra speed is starting up. Lurker Den gets going. A few more Hydras on the way. A couple more drones. Mutalisk's trying to figure out what direction they want to go in. There's a few of them going to come around this right-hand side. Going to get one drone. Just going to go for a couple of the extractors. And Lurker Den will just be starting up. As you see, Hydras on the road just continue to produce on through. Obviously, Reynor, like I say, wants to play a very slow-going game, and that's going to mean probably less spaces, and hence he's going to need more efficiency. And that's why you build into those lurkers. The lurkers are going to be one of the reasons and one of the ways in which you can have that kind of slow crawl towards extra bases. And at some point, maybe even the big push across the map where it's like, hey, dog, do you have an answer for these units? Do you have an answer for this big army? That's usually a very good question to be asked as our mutas continue to flap around the map for the moment. I'm just continuing to fly around, just going to be seeing a little bit of everything else still coming around here. Just going to be having a +2 melee coming up, a +2 flyer attack coming in. Still just staying tight for the moment. Just going to be, again, waiting for any opening they can find. Again, the doors have been pretty shut tight on the defense so far by Reynor. He's making sure there are not any big openings. There are not any big gaps in the defense. He will lose one extractor here, though, and that will slowly add up. Dark not getting greedy. He doesn't go for the other straight away. Just concerned about the possibility of there perhaps being something like Infestors nearby. We're going to dive into the base a little bit. We're going to grab an Overlord as we go. A few drones have gone. Now we're into the main base here with these Mutalisks, which are going to continue through for another Spore Crawler. And yeah, he's going to find the Lurker Den on the edge. So just the sort of thing which it just costs you to rebuild there, right? So going to slow down some of the power of the Lurkers. Also, the Lurker upgrades cannot exactly come through. We do have hives, so they could have started there. So that is going to slow those down. As now Dark continues to produce a round of extra Lings. Banes never really getting aggressive. He's going to try and move a few Banes in there. He actually, well, he lost a few Banes to the Lurkers, and the Fungal went down, but obviously didn't hit anything. A few of the Banes had turned away, so he kind of dodged. He kind of lost some Banes. He kind of dodged the Fungal a little bit, I guess. As we do have Amita's going to turn back around onto a set of rocks, opening up the central area. As Banelings are just going to try and run by everywhere, but again, so far, Reynor's defense is pretty good. Dark could maybe try and play around denying the 4th base, but I think if you try and deny the 4th base too heavily, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if it does ever go up. So maybe just let him have a 4th. I mean, you're already onto 5 bases of your own. You're on 85 workers, so you're mining a crap ton. These Lings are just not going to do a lot. As we do dive in, though, and we do kind of see the Mutalisk doing well. Dark has one Muta he needs to split apart there due to the Parasitic Bomb, which he does so. Another Fungal, and these Banelings are just not making the closing the gap at all. So Reynor finding great trades. This is exactly what I meant about the Banelings. When there's Fungals out, you can really deal with the Banelings quite substantially as Reynor. Just a Fungal here and a Fungal there. It doesn't mean less Fungals for the Mutas, but then if the Banelings haven't crashed in, that's why you're finding a ton of value. 1.5k resources lost difference already opening up in favor of Reynor, as he will continue to play the defenses here. Dark not going to stick on just Ling Bane. He's going to go Ultra Cabin 2 and get some Ultras up to try and help with this. This is exactly what Dark wants, though. He's going to find drones. He's going to get 15 of them. 15 drones going down is a big deal. As a few more Banelings get morphed in, and uh-oh, this army from Reynor is trying to move forward a little bit. Dark is going to get a lot of Banes forward. Is he going to get any towards the Hydras? Again, the Lurkers do so well. However, the Mutalisks are going to get rid of the last couple of Hydras here. There are Queens, and the Queens not on creep, though. They can't currently transfuse. If these Mutas dive the Queens, they could maybe do quite well for themselves. They decide not to. They're not going to play it too riskily. Oh, goodness, that was a little scary. As you do have, well, Mutas and Lings just going to get rid of the 4th base. I think Dark is kind of doing the right things, but he needs to be extremely careful, because right now it feels like Reynor is one push across the map away from just killing Dark as well. And that's always the danger that Dark is kind of playing with here, that he knows that Reynor can kind of make a play like this. The idea from Dark has to be that he's able to kind of hunt down enough Hydras that the Mutas are scary enough to stop a push like this continuing. There's 20 Mutas, 16 Hydras on the map, a few Banelings try to move through without the support of Lurkers far enough forward. the Banelings do connect on a few of the Hydras, and a lot of Hydras going down here now. We're going to try and capitalize, taking down a couple of singular Hydras. The Mutas will turn back onto the Roaches, and this is where Dark can defend with way less army supply because he's knocking down the anti of his opponent. He is rebuilding some Mutas. He lost a lot of them. He's only on 11, so even his Mutalist count isn't looking great, and he isn't super rich either, which obviously is an issue if he was about to start trying to build those Ultras and trying to use those to kind of run through on certain positions. He needs money to do all of these things, and right now he just ain't got it. These Banelings are not ready, and I think Reynor is pushing through nicely enough. I just don't see Dark having enough of a defense right here. Again, doesn't have any Banelings ready. He starts 2 Ultras, but they are quite a long build time, to say the least. So it's going to take a hot second for those to really show up. As Dark tries to intercept reinforcements with these Mutas, he has to split a Parasitic Bomb away. Got the wrong Muta at first. I mean, this is just costly. Parasitic Bomb's still there when the Muta dies, and he kills another. And then he's hunting down the reinforcing Hydras, but there's nothing actually stopping the army that's pushing into his natural, so if he doesn't ever stop that, we're kind of in trouble anyway, you know? Goons and the Spine Crawler trying to make something of a hold. Dark. Is there enough here for him to kind of just dive through? I just don't think he has enough Mutas. The Ultras are going to show up, but there's so many Hydras showing up as well. These Ultras aren't going to do it. Reynor is going to take it. He finally found himself to push across the map that you kind of aim for with this. I think Dark just threw a few too many little groups of Banelings away initially. And obviously it's always going to be bad trades from Dark. That's kind of the style he's playing, but he didn't really have like a gigantic let's go rebuild everything sort of bank setup either. And without having a bank like that available, like, it's just extremely difficult to justify making trades like this because, well, exactly this happens if you can't rebuild for the surge across the map. If you can't stop that surge from approaching, you're going to have a bad time. And looks as though Reynor is going to take a map in this series. We are going to get 1 point on the board for the Basilisk Zerg player. Obviously, it goes down. The few Roach is going to run to the corner. These Hydras just continue to take down bases, and of course, Dark is not really on his way to anything amazing that's going to suddenly save the day. Ultras would have been nice supporting alongside everything else, but they're just not going to happen here. I think that's going to be our... Yeah. That's just basically going to be our game, especially as a few more lurkers come up. They are very good against those Ultras. Seems like a weird game, but this is actually... It's not the kind of game you see every day in ZVZ, but it's the kind of game that does happen, right? It's the kind of game where you're like, you know, you do see this fairly frequently, actually. So it shouldn't be too surprising. But it's just that kind of whole concept of, you know, basically Dark just set up to keep on playing aggressively and to keep on diving, to keep on hurting Reynor. But Reynor just had the one Mega Army, and if he ever lost properly that Mega Army, game's kind of over, but he just traded well enough. I mean, look at resources lost here at the end of it all. 12,500 resources in his favor. Doesn't matter that Dark was up 20 workers. Doesn't matter that Dark was up all those bases. If you don't trade well enough... well, if you don't shut this army down that one time where Reynor can't rebuild it, Reynor's always been able to rebuild it, and now he's going to come pushing again. Dark doesn't have the activity on the map to stop this push from coming or to distract or anything, so he's just going to kind of let the lurkers move forward, and then I guess he's going to essentially just send his Ultras into a bit of a death mission. Spores firing, a couple of Mutas taking damage, Queen's firing some shots. We do just see 9 more lurkers producing through. Another Queen going to be finishing in just a couple of seconds. As obviously at this point it's just a slow push forward from Reynor. Whenever we see the big fight, there shouldn't really be anything for Dark, as he will just absolutely have Ultras melting. What is the melting point of Ultralisks? Lurkers. Lurker degree centigrade. That's what it is. As that is going to be GG's, and it is going to be... As we do have 2-1 in the lead still in the top right corner of the map. Our blue Zerg player from Dragon Kaiser Gaming, it is Dark. Taking on in the bottom left, our red Zerg, Basilisk Reynor. Oh, this is going to be the Reynor kind of opening from the last game with the extracted trick, and it's probably going to play a little bit more gasless to start us out. Dark goes for the more regular kind of what we're used to kind of hatchery-based opening. Just for a few moments. Again, slight difference at the start. There's going to be that faster pool from Reynor. That really kind of nets him something. He's down like a few drones right now, but then he gets the faster pool, and then he can bounce back on the drone count pretty soon after as well. Entries on the natural of both players. Obviously, so much potential for so many different things to happen in ZVZ. In ZVZ, like, you know, being an aggressive player or being a macro player, like, it doesn't necessarily mean much because you can just mix in a little bit of everything in Zerg versus Zerg, because why the hell wouldn't you? You know? You kind of have to be a top-tier ZVZ player. You can't just do the same thing on repeat. Being predictable in ZVZ is a fast-track way to just kind of get shut down and shut down hard, so... You know, as each game comes through, what I'm trying to say is that we're very likely to see, something different here, something different there. I'd be kind of surprised if Dark played the same style again, especially after losing out on it. And of course, Reynor's style was very much so built around the idea of, hey, this is what Dark is doing. You have to respond to that in some way, and that's exactly what Reynor did. He found himself a response to what was going on. That was Reynor's way of playing that last game, is a couple of Lings are going to begin to wander out down to the bottom side of the map. Couple Queens, couple drones coming through for the moment. It's going to be Sound Cycling still working down to the south side. Couple Queens are obviously out from Reynor. He's going to go for 2 more. Again, the benefits of opening with the later gas, he's just got those extra minerals available, and now he's up a couple of drones as well, so his opening build just gives him a slight edge, as he will go early Evolution Chamber at the front door, building that Ling speed. So he will have Ling speed available. We'll see what he does off the Evo Chamber. We'll see if he tries to go Roach Roaring as well, or not. He might make this look like 2 base Roaches, and then in reality he gets Ling speed and plays a very different style to what Dark is expecting. Dark is playing 3 base gasless, but not gasless. He actually has the gas for Ling speed, but he's not building it. And I completely believe this is Reynor, again, faking the idea of 2 base gasless Roaches, and then he's going to get a lot of Lings, and he's going to really punish Dark, who's cutting corners, because Dark thinks he can get away with kind of skipping speed himself and taking the 3rd hatchery. It would be a really good response from Dark should Reynor be actually doing this kind of Roach gasless build. Or gasless into Roach's build of 2 bases. He hit 44 drones, and he makes some Roaches as he take a 3rd hatchery. Dark is essentially cutting corners to kind of play, a little bit of catch-up for having mined more gas initially. Reynor's not playing that, though. Like I say, Reynor's playing a build now with Ling speed and Carapace that really looks to come across the map and punish that super fast 3rd of Dark without a Ling speed. And Dark will not be able to have access to enough Roaches to defend Ling straight away here either, so definitely eyes on Reynor, looking as though he's going to try and capitalize in the near future. As these Lings start to move across, now Dark knows, but what can Dark really do? Well, pull back defensively, just get ready to give up the 3rd base. I don't think you can defend the 3rd. He has no units on the map, so the 3rd hatchery has to be given up, and now that's 300 minerals wasted from Dark. And Reynor pokes to the front, you'll see the upgrade, you'll see the Roach Run. He knows fine well he has tricked Dark perfectly into what he wanted him to believe. As those Zerglings will continue on to this hatchery, which will go down. Hatchery has fallen. Flare still coming up. The Carapace coming up. A few more drones coming out. Ling's still trying to wrap around a few more Overlords and Roaches over here. Just the lava that's building, and obviously the Lings will just try and make everything, or get everything possible for themselves. The better a trade they can find, the happier they are going to be. As that Spire continues through. On the side of Dark, the N+1 missiles, the Roach speed coming up. Our Lings are going to come through. And there's a few Roaches and Queens just going to start kind of pressing forward. Our Spire already on the way up from Dark as well. +1 missiles is about to finish. The Roach speed is coming up. 7 additional Roaches continuing through right now. Queen's going to activate. Overseer taking some shots. That's going to be seen. Obviously, Spire did finish up from Dark behind all of this, so kind of a smart way to play. You're down a base, you definitely get put behind. Now you're going to get some mutas up, something, a unit that can really offset, disadvantages and really just kind of change the pacing of a game in general. So I like the kind of idea that Dark is having. I like the kind of direction we're taking this in. Reynor is building his own roaches off the carapace upgrade now, getting his own missiles. Dark continues into +2 missiles. So that is on its way out. As we just see our mutas continuing to flap around the map for a few moments. As this muta here going to go after the Overseer. So Overseer goes down. Reynor actually gets supply blocked. And that'll be a continued issue if these mutas continue around the map and find any other overlords. So something for Reynor to try and get on top of and sort out ASAP. As again, a few roaches and queens is going to come pulling back as well. A good few roaches into the top left from Dark, so just going to continue by with that. As we have ourselves again, the muta going to find just a single Zergling over here, just little bits of damage starting to be done. Still seeing that +1 missile upgrade coming out as well right now. Hydra's going to get that Musk Augments on the way, a few Zerglings heading across the map. See Hydras to help deal with the Mutalisks. Reynor also just has a very good roach count as well. Like, to me, these mutas have not done enough from Dark to kind of justify the initial investment, and now Reynor's going to end up in a very strong Roach Hydra army. And Dark doesn't really have anything to show for, having let Reynor to get to this strong Roach Hydra army. So I feel like Dark's in a spot of bother. Don't feel like he's going to be having the best of times. He has mutas fly through. They're going to grab a couple of creep tumors out the front. Hydras, the few roaches coming up, +2 missiles, must go augments all coming in. He's just going to go tapping onto a roach here and a roach there. Some of this creep spread begins to get knocked down. Roach Ravager just continue through as well on the side of Dark. As me just try to grab one roach already. Of this army just heading through the center, heading down towards the bottom left, and just having a few queens set up on the 4th base. Reynor and Dark both max out at pretty similar times in the end. Dark has a +2 over a carapace upgrade, very minor difference. Not going to start fighting over here is Reynor trying to get into the concave. I mean, he's got a good few Ravagers himself, so he has his own corrosive files, so I don't mind the Hydras being a part of this. A lot of the time I would kind of describe Hydras in this sort of scenario as kind of worse Ravagers. They're fragile units that, die quickly. They do have good DPS, but obviously they're worse Ravager because the Ravager is all of those things, but also has Corrosive Bile, which can be massive in ZVZ, dictating where your opponent's army can and cannot be, forcing it to move around, and forcing them to miss attacking opportunities because they've got to go dodging away from those Corrosive Biles as well. Reynor positioning himself nicely to start wrapping around here. Counterattack coming through. I mean, the mutas won't do much, but Reynor does have units on the top side. He's kind of getting dove on here, though. This top part of his army is taking some damage. Like I say, he does have roaches on a counterattack, and they're already putting some work in. They've killed 6 drones here. Dark taking a slight worker deficit on the back of this. Both players staying maxed out as we rebuild entirely into roaches still. It's a big amount of roaches on the way from both. As roaches get rid of a few more drones. That's 10, 11 drones going down. Couple corrosive bars. Our armies have to dodge away from each other. Queensy are going to be able to grab that roach as well. It's just going to pick that up. There's now still Roach Ravager looking to provide a chase. And Reynor is going to continue to run up this ramp. Oh, now he's going to get surrounded, but he's going to surround himself. This is a triple layer Zerg sandwich here. As we are going to see Dark continue to move upwards. That means he gets a lot more of these units as Reynor tries to chase down. I feel like Dark capitalizes on this much more so than Reynor does. As we do have the roaches getting turned around one more time. A bunch more roaches coming up. A bit more Roach Ravage still being added on. We're still staying more or less max. Dark's keeping a little bit of an edge. He actually has 10 less workers. The 20 more army supply already available. Is attacking in here going to be a good idea from Dark? A lot of his units are kind of hurting. And obviously he's running into the reinforcements that are fresh and ready to go already from Reynor. The one thing I will say, he just forced the Ravagers to cancel. Reynor has no Ravagers in his army, so his current army quality is much lower than that of Dark's. There's a few Ravagers that just finished morphing 4 of them. It still doesn't really stand up to what Dark has, and that's why Dark is taking a great trade here so far, as he does have good corrosive bars. Going to hit that Ravager down as well. That's a freebie, essentially. We take those because every Ravager that goes down is just less you have to play against. Dark is going to love that pick off as now he continues forward. He's going to keep on jumping on all these units. Queen's going down, Roach Ravager being chased. It does seem as though Dark has himself a massive edge here in game number 4, looking to stay alive and play Sterile tomorrow in the Masters Coliseum. Well, Reynor will be eliminated from the tournament if this game does go Dark's way. Roach's Ravager still coming through, a couple more biles. Reynor is going to have this Roach Ravager still trying to continue forward, but it's just Dark reinforcing well enough, and soon these few Ravagers are going to go down again from Reynor. Once he doesn't have those biles anymore, this is going to become problematic, although his last couple biles do take out a Ravager. That's something at least, but he loses a base in the process, so now 3 bases versus 4. Reynor is going to be trailing and not exactly having the best of times. Like I say, it does not seem as though this is going to end in a fairy tale story for him. It looks as though Dark is going to find himself game number 4 of the series, and like I say, advancing into the top 8 of the tournament now, as the Hydra Dent will go down, and Dark finds himself, like I say, just moments away from top 8 in the Masters Coliseum at 6. More Roach Ravager still coming through. We see that +2 carapace finishing from Dark. That's one edge Reynor perhaps had here. Wasn't enough to offset the onslaught of Dark, and now Dark will have it even himself. So it's not going to be the saving grace of Reynor in these upcoming fights or anything. Being set up around the bottom side. Just going to be seeing a couple of corrosive piles coming about. The Queens of the front going to come in, try and push back a little bit. A couple of Roaches are taking some shots as well. And we'll see a few more biles and a few more of those Roaches taking some damage. So again, some pretty substantial shots here and there as Dark tries to bully his way into this position. He has got more units coming around the left. Could look for a cancel on that forward base again. The one that Reynor is trying to rebuild and re-establish off of this opening that, of course, at this stage has not been super hard for him. A couple of drones go down. Now Roach Ravager will go after that hatchery. Just going to be seeing the Roach Ravager of Dark continuing forward. A couple more biles. Reynor trying to keep on holding, but again, it's going to be more and more difficult, especially as he doesn't have the base on the left side. He's just missing mining. He's missing production that he needs. As he starts to look okay on the left, it's only because he's succumbing to the right. Reynor is kind of strong in one place. It means he's weakened his defenses in another. Just trying to find some kind of a balance here to perhaps make this all be okay. Dark actually making mutas again, because to be fair, right now Reynor has no answer to mutas. And so a few mutas on the map are actually going to perhaps just be enough to force a GG here. Dark flies them down to the south side, but a Roach Ravager has to back it up. The mutas are going to come in overhead. First Ravager already taking some heavy hits. It's going to go down. Now the other Ravager is going to take some shots. It does seem as though this will probably be just, like I say, way too much, because you can just do this. You can just jump from one set of Ravagers to the next, and Reynor can't really do anything about it. You lose your Ravagers, it's going to be very bad for you. He's going to kind of win the fight on the left side, but again, he's completely falling on the right. As he types the GGs, Reynor taps, and Dark takes the series 3-1. Getting the victory here in game number 4. And, yeah, finding himself victorious, stays alive in the tournament. Dark moves through.